it going out there, YouTubers? Cyberneticshark here with another new movie review for you. So let's go right into this review and see what I saw. Well, welcome to another awesome review, folks. So this awesome review, I ended up seeing a movie last week with my good friend Chris, and this movie, I've seen the trailer for it many times, and I was really looking forward to checking it out, because it just looks super hilarious. And actually, when I went and saw Venom, they actually had kind of like an extended scene from the film on the credits for Venom before the movie started, which I thought was really cool. So that was fun to see, and I thought was super hilarious and just fun. Now, this film happens to be an awesome Marvel-led film that is a part of their production, but isn't considered an actual Marvel film. But it is done by Sony Computer Animation Studios. And that, of course, is the awesome and amazing certified fresh film, Spider-Man Into The Spiderverse. Oh, yeah. So this awesome film, we get to see a whole bunch of different versions of Spider-Man and different multiverse versions, such as we get Miles Morales Spider-Man, we get Peter Parker, Spider-Man, we get, Noir Spider-Man. We get so many different ones we get to view and see in this film, which are just really awesome and cool. So this film was actually directed by three gentlemen, actually, and I thought it was really interesting that it had three directors on this film, but also all of them were writers on the film too as well. So the first director on this film happens to be a gentleman named Bob Persichetti. Now, he really hasn't done much film or anything else. He's kind of been just kind of a writer and kind of a co-producer and stuff like that behind the scenes of a lot of things. But this is his first directorial debut out of the three directors that were directors on this film. Now, the second director happens to be a gentleman named Mr. Peter Ramsey. Now, Peter Ramsey actually was the director of an awesome 2012 film that I absolutely thought was a great and awesome, true Legends type of computer animated film that brings us together with all these awesome legends that, as kids we grew up, wondering if they were real and stuff like that. And then, of course, is the awesome film called Rise of the Guardians. Now, that was actually his directorial debut and his only directing credit. He's been a writer and producer on several other things as well, and actually was writers on some big movies during the 90s as well. I believe one of them was School Days and Poetic Justice he was a writer on. Now, the third director on this film happens to be a gentleman named Rodney Rotham. Now, Rodney Rotham hasn't really done anything else except for write as well. This is actually his directorial debut as well. But he was a writer on an awesome sequel film that came out a couple years ago, and that is on a great funny TV series that was great during the 80s that Johnny Depp starred on. And he actually was a writer on the awesome film 22 Jump Street, which I think is really cool because that's such a greatly written film, super funny and hilarious, and was just a really fun film. But altogether, I felt that these guys created an amazing CGI animation film that just was so in-depth, so awesome, and just brought together all these awesome Spider characters, all these Spider-Man versions together into one film, and I thought that was really amazing and just really awesome. I thought they just did a really good job and gave us an interesting and different take on these different Spider-Mans, and what they would do if they were all together and had to fight together. And I thought that was really interesting and different. I thought they really well directed it and just gave us a whole new cool, awesome new addition to, the Marvel universe, and gave us a really cool CGI film that at first I wasn't too sure about, but after, like I said, seeing the preview so many times and then seeing that bit part, I was laughing my butt off through this whole film. It just was a really amazing, and they really directed it so well and made it such a great film. Now, this movie has a fantastic voice cast. I mean, you have a huge cast. I mean, Nicolas Cage did a voice in it. You had that Mahershala Ali, that one for Moonlight, did a voice in the film. I mean, you had this huge cast of just awesome actors and actresses that provided their voices and stuff like that. Now, to start off this awesome cast, we have none other than a great, awesome person. Now, I don't know much about this guy, but he has been in a few films that I've heard of, and he also is kind of like up and coming, and he's kind of like a, you know, going to be a big deal because he's also a rapper at the same time, and he has a lot of potential. And that happens to be the actor known as Mr. Shameik Moore. Now, Shameik you might recognize from such films as the awesome and supposedly awesome film. I actually haven't seen this one, but I have heard great things about it. It's a good kind of musical type of film, kind of, you know, good-hearted and stuff like that, kind of along the lines of, like, Raise Your Voice and Dreamgirls and stuff like that. And that happens to be the film from 2012 called Joyful Noise. Now, he didn't have a huge part of the film, I heard, but he did have a nice short, you know, part that was really decent and kind of got him some recognition of, and, you know, a reason why he was offered other films that he has gotten. But at the same time, I've heard that he was just really fun in it, and that he had a really great time, and that he just brought an interesting and cool, you know, new characterization to that character that he got to play in the film. Now, the other film that he was in, and another one I have not seen, but I've heard great things about it, and that it's just a really interesting, cool kind of take on nerds being like kind of the, you know, the big people around. They're like the cool kids, actually, the nerds. But at the same time, it's like they, you know, live in a world where, you know, cool people don't like nerds and stuff like that. And that happens to be a film that came out a couple years ago called Dope. Now, like I said, I haven't seen this film, but I've heard great things about it, and that it's a really fun and awesome film. And that he had a really great breakout performance in this role, and that he was, you know, this great lead actor, and that he brought a lot of great sense to the character, gave us, you know, like, you really felt like he was that nerdy character, and that, you know, he could, you know, brought so much to that role. And from what I've seen in the previews, it looks like a decent role. It looks pretty decent, and I'm actually kind of looking forward to checking it out eventually and seeing, you know, how he did and so forth. Because in Spider-Man Into The Spiderverse, I thought he did a fantastic job as the voice of Spider-Man, Miles Morales' version. And I thought that he just brought a great sensibility to the character, that he was just the right pick for the character's voice, and he made it really awesome and fun. And he was super hilarious, I thought, too. Some of his lines in the film were just super hilarious and funny, and just really well done. Like, they were very quick and to the point, and were on point with the joke. And I just thought he did a really fantastic job with the character, and gave us a really interesting and cool Miles Morales version. Because we really haven't seen Miles Morales in, like, film a lot, you know, versus Peter Parker, or versus, I think, even a couple of the other versions of Peter Parker we've seen in other instances, but not really Miles Morales. So it was kind of fun seeing this different version of Spider-Man, you know, as the Miles Morales character, and I thought Shameik brought a great characterization to that and gave us what we were probably looking for if you're a huge comic book fan of the Miles Morales Spider-Mans. Next up on the awesome voiceover field, we have another great comedian who is just so awesome, and everything I see him in, I think he's absolutely perfect, hilarious, and just on point, and always just a really great comedian. And that, of course, is Mr. Jake Johnson. Now, Jake Johnson, you might recognize from Jurassic World 1. You might recognize him from the New Girl show that was on for many seasons. You might recognize him from a slew of films over the years, Let's Be Cops and so forth. But a couple of films I really enjoyed him and thought he was fantastic in were none other than an awesome film that came out at the beginning of this year that just, I think, is an awesome true story film, comedy film that just had a fantastic cast. It was so awesome, and Jake just brought a great character and gave us such a hilarious, you know, just performance in that film. And that, of course, is the film Tag. Now, if you're not familiar with Tag, definitely check out my review of it. It's down to my other reviews. Anyways, but Tag is based on a true story about these real friends in real life that have actually been playing the same game of tag for 30 years, which I think is absolutely awesome that these friends have stayed together that many years and doing this stuff. Even though they've gone on and had their own lives, had, you know, families, you know, relationships, all that kind of good stuff. But I think that's freaking awesome, and Jake's character in the film was just so freaking funny and so hilarious, and just, he really rounded out the whole cast, along with all the other guys that were in the film, from Jeremy Renner to Ed Helms, to John Hamm and so forth. It was a really great cast, and Jake was so freaking hilarious in it. Every line that came out of his mouth was pure gold, and he just was so freaking awesome in the film. I absolutely loved him in it. Thought he did a fantastic job, and just a really fun film too. If you haven't seen it, go ahead and check it out. Definitely check out my review about it too as well. It's such a freaking funny movie, and just a really great Jake Johnson performance. Now, the other film that Jake Johnson was in that I think is a really fantastic film is none other than a flop of 2017 that I would consider flop, but I thought was a fantastic film. I thought it was a great relaunch to, Universal's Monster Universe. And that, of course, is the Tom Cruise-led The Mummy. And I absolutely thought Jake Johnson was so awesome as that character he played in the film. I loved it, even after, what happens to him, and he keeps popping up and talking to Tom Cruise. Just his lines and just his performance was so awesome. And I thought he was a great, kind of sidekick character. Kind of like Benny in the original, the first Mummy with Brendan Fraser was. Because Benny was freaking hilarious, and that's what Jake Johnson's characterization and character made me think of, was Benny the whole time. And he just was such a perfect sidekick, really worked really well with Tom Cruise, and they blended so well together and had great chemistry, great comedy. I just think it was a great performance by Jake, and he did such an awesome job in it, and just made a great, new characterization type of sidekick character that was just fun, entertaining, and just awesome. Really great and really well done. Now, it comes to voicing the alternate Peter Parker universe character, he was on point again. So hilarious. Everything about this Peter Parker was absolutely freaking hilarious. And Jake brought his classic voice and his classic funny comedy personality to this Peter Parker and made it so sticking funnier. I mean, I literally thought while watching the film that was Jake Johnson on the screen, because it embodied Jake Johnson so well. And every little quip or little sideline he was saying was absolutely hilarious and funny, and just really well done, really well conceived, and just a great pleasure to see this other Peter Parker character in this awesome already Spider-Man film. And Jake just brought it, like I said, and brought a lot of great sensibility to the character too. And you felt it. You felt his sensibility. You felt his anger. You felt his love. You felt what that Peter Parker was feeling, and I thought Jake did a great job of conveying that and giving us a great Peter Parker and a great, awesome, different Peter Parker from the other Peter Parkers we've seen. Next up on our awesome cast of voiceover characters is none other than the most gorgeous and beautifulest actress around these years that just is so far beyond her age. I saw it back when she was back when she was 14 years old. I saw that in her first movie that she was in, that she was going to be an amazing actress and just an awesome, person and stuff like that. And that, of course, is Miss Haley Steinfeld. Now, Haley Steinfeld does the voice of the woman Spider-Man in this film, or Gwen Stacy, she is called in this one. But she just is an awesome actress. I absolutely love pretty much everything she's in. You might recognize her from such films as Edge of 17, the second and third Pitch Perfect. She's just an amazing actress, and also singer too. She sings really well. Her music's really awesome too as well. Now, a couple films I really enjoyed her and thought she was fantastic in brings me to her 2010 debut that I think is her greatest role to date. I could not believe how amazing she was in the film. The Coen brothers picked the right person to play this character. And that, of course, is in the awesome remake of a John Wayne classic, True Grit. This movie was just well casted from the start. I mean, you got Jeff Bridges, Matt Damon, Josh Brolin, and then you got Haley Steinfeld, who, this is her first film. She comes out of nowhere and works and is a powerhouse, along with these other great actors that are in this film. I mean, because Jeff Bridges, Matt Damon, and Josh Brolin all are such amazing actors, and she worked so well with them, and it was so cohesive and so fluid, and just, it was her best performance today. As soon as I saw her in that film, I fell, in love with her as an actress, because she just brought it, and just was an amazing performance. Hands down, she definitely should have won that Oscar that year for that role, because it was just such an amazing performance by such a young actress. And it was along the lines, like, I feel her performance was as good as, like, the piano Oscar winning performance by Anna Paquin. I feel it's like Haley Joel Osment in the 1999 film Sixth Sense, his Forrest Gump performance. I mean, it was just that great, and I'm so sad that she didn't, get more glory for that role, because how good she was and how awesome she was in the film. She just really was, and it's such a great film too at the same time. Coen Brothers did an amazing job doing that remake, and just brought us a great new remake of such a great classic anyways. Now, the other movie that she was in that I really enjoyed is a great sci-fi film that came out in 2013 and stars Asa Butterfield, who I think is a really well and really, trained, young actor as well. I think he's really intense and really good, and, I think every role I've seen him in, I think he's really good and fantastic. Now, this film also starred Harrison Ford in it, Ben Kingsley, Abigail Breslin, a huge cast, and it's just an awesome sci-fi action flick, and that's the film called Ender's Game. Oh yeah, this movie was just really awesome. I wasn't too sure about it at first, then after watching it, I just thought it was such a great and awesome idea. And Haley Steinfeld's character, it wasn't a huge part, but still was a great performance, and I thought she did a really great job in it. I thought she worked really well with Asa and with, Harrison Ford character, with, everyone that was involved in the film. I think they worked so well and very cohesively. And just, it was a really fantastic, just awesome, different sci-fi type of film. And a different take on aliens, and a different kind of, like, atmosphere of, like, the world being attacked by aliens and stuff like that. And I thought that it just was a really well-grounded film. And I thought that Haley Steinfeld's character was just really awesome in the film. Really well conceived, really well played out, and just a great, addition to that film. And just, brought a great and awesome, glory to that character, and a great performance for that film. Now, it comes to playing Gwen Stacy Spider-Woman in Spider-Verse movie. I thought she did a good job. I really enjoyed her. I thought her voice was perfect for the role. I thought she sounded really convincing, really well, interacted really well with all the other characters in the film. It just made it a really cool and awesome take on Gwen Stacy, and the first Spider-Woman movie we've actually gotten seen in a film. And I think that they just did a really great job, and I thought she did fantastic. Brought a great sensibility to Gwen's character, and just was a really awesome choice for the character. It was very fun seeing her, listen to her voiceover in this film, and I thought it was just a really good and well done, performance by her. So to round out this awesome cast of already awesome actors that provided voices for this film is none other than an awesome comedy man himself that I think is absolutely hilarious and funny. His stand-ups are amazing. His short-lived TV series I thought was fantastic and should have lasted longer than it did. And that, of course, is Mr. John Mulaney. Now, I was blown away that John Mulaney did a voice in this, and this is actually his first film that he's actually done. So I think this is great that this was the first film he got to do, and he brought it to such an amazing and funny character that was perfect for him, and was like just perfect voice for this character, because I had never heard of this Spider-Man version character, that is a pig. I just couldn't believe this. I was like, what? I'm like, where did this come from? I think it was absolutely hilarious, but John brought such a great voice to that role, and just was so amazing, and I couldn't believe it. As soon as I heard his voice pop up in the movie, I'm like, is that John Mulaney? No way! Because I think John Mulaney is so awesome, and I just absolutely love his comedy. I love pretty much everything he does, and I just think he's a great comedian. Now, a couple things that he's done that I think are just great shows, things that he's worked on that he brought a great, awesome comedy flair to. Now, one of these happens to be an awesome Netflix coming-of-age cartoon adult film that we absolutely love. This cartoon film. It's so freaking hilarious and so funny, so graphic at the same time, but so sticking well directed, well written. The animation's hilarious looking and just so well conceived. This show is so funny, and that happens to be the Netflix show called Big Mouth. This show is so freaking hilarious. It's like up the lines, like with South Park and Family Guy and The Simpsons, but taken to the extreme, basically. But basically, if you haven't heard of it or know about it, basically it's about these 4 kids that are kind of coming into their puberty and kind of what they have to deal with going through puberty. And it's absolutely freaking hilarious. And John Mulaney does one of the voices of the main character, and he's absolutely hilarious. Just his voice, because it's his normal voice. And you're like, why is this adult voice coming out of this, 13-year-old kid? And it's so funny and perfect. And, everyone that's involved with Big Mouth is just awesome. I mean, you got Nick Kroll, Jenny Slate, you got Rafi from The League, or you might also recognize him from Jonathan Matakis from The House, or from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. That was Rosa's boyfriend for a while. And it's such a well-rounded cast and such a freaking hilarious show. John Mulaney brings it to the T to this role, and it's just a great and awesome characterization and just a fun and funny, cartoon animated film. Great and fantastic. Absolutely highly recommended. Definitely check out, people. It's so freaking funny. So that brings me to the other awesome show that's been on TV for, over 40 years now. It's a great, late night TV show that just is awesomely hilarious. He's been a guest host on it. He's been an actor on it. He's been a writer for it for over 10 years. I think he just finally did his last writing segment for it for the end of the 2018 season. And that, of course, is the awesome show Saturday Night Live. Oh, yeah. So, I mean, he was a writer since 2008 on the awesome SNL, and he brought such great characters, such great, writing to the show, and just was super hilarious when he was on it as, an actor or a guest host. He just was so awesome, and he has such great writing talent, and you could see it, you felt it, and you saw it through a lot of performances by the SNL members from what he wrote over the last 10 years. And it just was so well done, so well conceived, and just a great performance for John. And I think that it really shows what he does with his stand-up as well, and how well he is at being a stand-up comedian. Because I absolutely love how his dry sense of humor is, and how he presents his stand-up comedy, because it's almost like telling his life story, but giving it, a weird flair to it, almost kind of like how Big Mouth is, and how SNL, a lot of the sketches are. He has a perfect talent for that, and you can see it through a lot of the sketches and through his stand-up. I just think he's a great comedian, a great force to be reckoned with. I mean, I feel, over the years, next 20, 30 years, we'll see him. He'll be like Steve Martin, or Martin Short, or Rick Moranis, or, comedian legends like that, Bill Murray and so forth. I feel that he has the potential to be like that. And with his performances and with his, lots of his work is done with Nick Kroll. Both of them are a dynamic duo and do so well together. And just was so, so well conceived, everything he did for SNL. Really well done and really awesome. When it comes to his character in Spider-Man Into The Spiderverse, like I was saying, it's such a perfect role. His voice was perfect for it. It was so absolutely hilarious. And his lines were so great, and the character itself was just so absurd, was perfect for John Mulaney's voice. And just was a great pleasure and a great addition to those awesome Spider-Mans we get to see and get to know more about. Kind of like Spider-Man Noir, and Spider-Woman, and the Miles Morales Spider-Man, and the alternate Peter Parker, and stuff like that. It just was a great addition to all those awesome Spider-Mans. And this character was just so stinking funny because he's a pig. That is absolutely hilarious, and is just an awesome, whoever created that or thought of that was just an awesome, Spider-Man to bring around. That just, makes it so hilarious. It's kind of like bringing in the Looney Tunes into it, I feel like. This person, whoever created the comics, I really like Porky Pig, and I should incorporate him into my new Spider-Man character, kind of thing. And I'm thinking to myself, that's kind of what it was. And I think that's absolutely hilarious and so funny. And John, like I said, just brought a great presence to that character and made it so fun to see for the first time. and will definitely makes me want to read the actual comic books of these characters because it was just so well conceived. Really well done, John, and he did an amazing job. Really enjoyed it. So if you're not familiar with what Spider-Man Into the Spiderverse is about, basically the premise of the film is it's centered in the Miles Morales Spider-Verse, basically, where Kingpin, unfortunately, his family has passed away, and he's trying to bring them back through basically going back in time, really building this machine. And unfortunately, what happens is it kind of is the birth story of Miles Morales, how he becomes a Spider-Man, and how unfortunately the verse kind of gets split up and pulls in all these other Spider-Mans from other multiverses and brings them all together to have to fight and stop Kingpin from what he's doing and destroying the universe, basically, from him trying to bring his dead family back, basically. And that's pretty much what the film's about. Miles basically becoming the Spider-Man he is, him learning about these other spider people, him kind of coming in his own, stopping Kingpin, and saving the world. So it's a really awesome concept. It was really visually beautiful. Lots of great voice cast in it. Like I said, just the animation was so amazing looking. It almost looked very much like claymation too at majority of the film. Made me think of claymation and computer CGI together mixed, kind of like what they've been doing over the last several years now with claymation films like Kubo and the Two Strings and Box Trolls and films like that. Like, it looks very similar to that, but the whole concept of the multiverse of Spider-Man was just really awesome and really well directed, and I thought it was a fantastic film. Definitely deserves a certified fresh rating, and it's an amazing Spider-Man film. Really highly recommend it. Definitely go check it out in theaters now, people. It's such an amazing film, so fun and awesome. Giant 10 golden movie boxes on this one, people. Definitely something I want to add to my collection when it comes out. It's a fun film and really fun to see. So that's it for this movie review, guys. As always, thank you for watching. Thank you for liking. And also, thank you for subscribing. If it's your first time here, if you've been here before and you haven't hit that subscribe button, do I need to get the other Spider-Mans to come out and help you push that button? Come on, people. Hit that button so you don't miss this awesome video or any other awesome videos I put up. And as always, people, keep your eyes out for any older, newer videos you might not have seen mine yet. And as always, people, check out the awesome Stardust app, where you can watch 3 to 30-second little mini reviews of awesome TV shows, movies, trailers, anything your heart desires. And also, this app is constantly updating, adding cool new polls, promotions, giveaways, and so forth. So that's something that interests you. Go ahead and download it for free. That's right, people, free. Through your respective Play Store. Go ahead and create an account. Look for me under the Cyberneticshark 13. Follow me, and I'll follow you back. As always, people, catch you in the next one.